Moin Leute! Another episode from Western Australia, Perth. If you are building a house and you have no clue about the construction plan and the laws and everything belonging to that, then this episode is gonna be the perfect episode for you. We are meeting the founder Tom of uDrew. Hi Tom.
Hey, wie geht's?
Gut, gut. Und dir?
Ja, nicht schlimm.
Warum sprichst du Deutsch?
Ein bisschen.
Ein bisschen?
Meine Frau kommt aus Darmstadt.
So besides our startup talk about uDrew, Tom is showing me a little bit of Perth from the top. This is an amazing view here. So check out Perth. It's a really beautiful city with so many water, so many green. And yeah, later on I will be visiting some kangaroos on that island there you showed me, right? Just over there. Amazing. I'm excited to hear the uDrew story, right? Can you tell me in about 60 seconds what it is all about with uDrew and also for our audience here?
Yeah, sure. Really nice to meet you too, André, and thanks for visiting us in Perth. So uDrew is an online platform that lets anybody create their own fully government certified and engineered building plans in a couple of minutes. So basically you pick what you want to build, sketch it onto a satellite image of your lot. As you sketch it, it calculates all the engineering, every component that you need for your structure, and also checks against every local and national building regulation and fixes itself to produce the final building plans in a couple of minutes.
That was a good elevator pitch.
Yeah, was that under 60 seconds? That might be a record for me.
I think so. I think it was less than 60
seconds.
Good,
great. Good.
So you have convinced some investors during the elevator ride, right?
Well, I've tried.
Okay, this is uDrew.
Yeah, so what we've done, we've just drawn a fence.
So you use Google Maps?
For this old version we do. This is our prototype. So I've just put in a water meter here, and what it's done is calculate that we need to build our fence around that. So right here it's done a lot of things in the background. It's gone 2.5 metres below the ground to calculate the soil type and the movement. It's also looking for utilities and nasty things under the ground. It's also gone 16 square kilometres around this block, calculated wind tunnelling effects from buildings, trees, parks and ocean and other things. And it's gone 500 metres up as well. So there's a lot of science happening in the background here. We've got some data from European Space Agency, NASA, and a lot of custom data that we've collected. We've kept it like a traffic light system. So basically anything you draw, you can interact with it and it just gets angry with you and goes red if you can't do something where you want to do it.
Cool. And then you can put it all together and send this plan to the government and for approval.
Yeah. So we'll just pretend we've checked for these things and we'll have a look at the final drawings. This is where the user customizes it. So it's generated all the engineering and all the preview of our drawings. You can change the sizes, the material, just by clicking and changing them here. We also need to add a few things on. And this is for engineering purposes and for some government regulation purposes. We need to know these characteristics. They're very strict over here in Perth about these things. So I'll just put those things on and we'll go back and have a look at our drawing. So it's giving the user an instant visual of what their structure will look like. So that's the street view and this is the bird's eye view. The grey stuff is the concrete. That's all been very heavily calculated to use the minimum amount of concrete. These little dots are the steel. And so it's always the most economical and safest design possible.
So let's hit the road in Perth, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, Tom.
Yep. Boom. Yeah, so it's about 500 metres, I think, roughly.
So now we're going to the Riff.
Yes, the
That
Riff.
was the first co-working space in Perth.
Yep, that's right. Founded by Brody about 10 years ago.
So 1 year ago, you were the only one working for uDrew. Set it all up, and you also started to implement the first version of the software.
Yeah, that's right. So I coded the first pretty crappy version myself to test if it would work, and to my surprise, it worked beautifully. So it took me about 6 months to learn enough code to build that. And then I hired professional contractors to build the web base. version, and with the team I've got on board now, they started coming on board in November last year, so almost exactly a year ago.
Let's check out Riff.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go see if Dan.
What was your biggest fail?
It sounds a bit cheesy, was not having self-confidence to go ahead earlier. And so coming from the building industry, there's a lot of paranoia, people don't share ideas, there's not much collaboration, and just general distrust of people.
And they keep their secrets.
Yeah, so basically the first quite a number of years I kept it very much to myself because I was paranoid. But since getting into the tech community, that's really opened my eyes about talking about it, networking, and pretty much everyone wants to help. No one's there to steal your idea. They just generally like cool things and will give you the guidance and support you need. But as far as failures go, there's been a lot. The idea itself of uDrew and the technology is very cool, but the business model was quite difficult. So originally we started as a B2C service, so business to customers, and we trialled that for 6 months and that just didn't work at all. So we had to redraw our whole business model and plan, which we lost 6 months for, but we learnt a lot doing it. So it turned out to be a good thing in the end, but at the time I definitely saw that as a big failure. There's been just so many. I've got the wrong people involved at the wrong time who've screwed me over, or it's cost me money when I shouldn't have needed to. And there's a lot of people who are out there and they prey on startups. So you get consultants and things, and be it lawyers who scare you into getting unnecessary protection, or contracts that aren't needed, or patents when they might not be necessarily needed. There's a lot of these companies that scare startups into wasting a lot of money that's not necessary. So that's happened to me a few times, and I've learnt from that though. There's a lot of mistakes. It's probably take another hour interview to go through all of the mistakes I've made, but yeah, I've learnt from them all, so that's the important thing, at least.
Mm-hmm. And you lost your fear of telling others about your idea.
Yeah, it was more the paranoia about that.
You can see that in the old-fashioned building industry is different than in the startup community.
Very much. The startup and the tech world are just totally different. We all share ideas, everyone helps each other, and you get genuine feedback, whereas the building industry will generally keep their cards very close to their chest. Generally, there's some exceptions. There's some really good companies out there, don't get me wrong, but that's what I found. It was very competitive and very secretive. So with that type of mindset, it doesn't encourage the innovative side at all. So if someone's got a new idea, a lot of the time the mentality is, it's not going to work without even looking at it. Or why change something that's not broken? Or we do it this way, we've always done it this way, why bother? And they just generally don't know how to implement new ideas. So yeah, it's a bit strange coming. There's definitely exceptions though, and I'm starting to see that more and more now. The building industry is starting to realise this and see this, and they're starting to do some really cool things actually. So,
why do you recommend to entrepreneurs to put your fears about telling about your idea away? Why is it important?
You need that external feedback. It's very easy to have an idea and just be madly in love with your idea, but you've got blinders on and you're just looking down like this. So without getting those other perspectives from different areas, different fields, different backgrounds, there's just so many obvious things that you might miss just through your own subconscious biasness and for the love of your own product and what you're trying to solve. And I was very guilty of that at the start. I just loved the idea of what we're doing, and I just saw it very narrowly, but getting people involved from different areas, it just really opened my eyes to other opportunities, other ways to do things, and couldn't have done it without that external input, really. And that came down to inexperience as well. I didn't, because growing up in the building industry, we didn't really do that, and it was very strange for me at the start.
What would you recommend to startups or to founders when it comes to hiring people for the team? What's the most important thing to keep an eye on when you hire people for your very early startup team?
I really struggled with this at the start, and it took me longer than it should have to get my first staff on board because of the worry that I had about getting the wrong person. So I'd firstly recommend getting to know the person first, be it via emails, catch up occasionally, and just get to really understand them before you even offer them a job. You want to find someone who's equally as passionate as yourself, which is very difficult when it's your baby, you've created it, and so you love it, but you want the staff to also love it. And so trying to distinguish the genuine passion from people who just want a title or think that working in a startup is like cool or something, followed by what's my wage and how much equity do I get. They're generally warning bells. The first question should be, I love your product, what's the plans, what's the future? They want to know about what you're doing.
Right.
You can genuinely see that they're passionate just about building something cool. And that's generally what I've found the best thing to look for. Someone who's just wants to make something really cool and has that creative freedom to do that. So when you're tied up in your corporate job 9 to 5, you generally don't have that freedom. And I think a lot of people crave that. So you want to look for that in the first hire, definitely.
And what's your dream of life?
To get some sleep one day, that would be fantastic. But my dream, so uDrew for me is a vessel to help fund future innovation and research and development that I want to do. I like to design and build and invent stupid things a lot of the time. Some of them are quite cool. But with uDrew, I can see that as a way to fund future developments, more exploring and pushing the boundaries further. My passion is research and development. That's what I like to do. And with uDrew, it gives me the option to do that and keep pushing and keep looking for cool things, like no matter what it is. It doesn't have to be related to the building industry.
Yeah, let's create cool things.
I want to make cool things, and that's my passion.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, and hope to see you again in Deutschland maybe next year.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic that you discovered the Moin Startup Camp even before I contacted you.
It's very cool.
So I hope one day you can join us.
Oh, I'd love to. Definitely.
Yeah. And for you guys, I will link the website of uDrew under this video. So check it out. I mean, in Germany, it's not so useful right now. Maybe in future.
We're in talks with some areas in München and Österreich, actually.
Oh, so you want to spread it worldwide one day, but you have to check out the different laws of the government.
Not too bad, actually. We've got a way to work that. So we're looking at piloting maybe in Europe late next year.
Wow. Okay. So
maybe
check out that later. And of course, subscribe to the Startup Taxi and give a thumb up for this video if you want to support. I would highly appreciate that. Und damit sind wir raus. Bam!